Well, the higher they go, the harder they fall. But how serious is the situation really for Germany's top managers? Let's ask someone who should know, Jörg Rocholl, the president of the European School of Management and Technology. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
So how do you explain the fact that in recent years there seems to be a trend of giving CEOs the boot?
The requirements for CEOs have risen. It's also that the corporate governance is much stricter. It looks very carefully at what a CEO has done, and thus also the responsiveness to failures has risen, meaning if a CEO fails to deliver, the CEO has to leave.
But what does this trend tell us about the companies doing so?
For the companies, at the first place, it may be a good signal because it means that a new CEO will come and the new CEO may change the performance of the company. At the same time, one has to be careful that one doesn't become too short-sighted. So in that sense, to just look at quarterly reports and quarterly earnings rather than having in mind a more long-term strategy and perspective for the company.
And this is exactly the kind of juggling act that managers are exposed to, and they're expected to perform, to do both. Is this actually possible?
It is a real challenge, but this is why CEOs have to be so highly qualified to really meet this challenge. This means to develop a long-term strategy that also shows short-term payoffs, and this is not always possible.
Okay, that's the ideal case, and I'm sure this is also what you will probably teach your students at your School of Economics, Economic School of Management. The managers of tomorrow will emerge, hopefully, from that school. What exactly do you teach them?
Well, first, one part is clearly skills. There are certain skills that managers need to know about. They need to know how to, for example, read a balance sheet and so on. But there's certainly much more to this. And one certain part has to do with responsible leadership. So to create leaders who act responsibly, who know how to interact with their social environment, and really who take responsibility for what they do.
Now, this is an international school, so you will also have a pretty good idea about international top managers, like managers in the United States. They're given fat pay slips because they're expected to be a bit more risky, perhaps, than their German counterparts. Is there any change there now?
I would think overall the market for CEOs has become much more global. So there's an increasing trend to also see moves of CEOs between different countries. And this also leads to a certain assimilation of practices, behavior of CEOs. This is certainly something that probably will even accelerate going forward.
Now, what we must not do is mix up things. Managers are not entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are liable for what happens in their company. Managers, not really. How can they be expected to identify themselves with the company's well-being?
This has been one of the central questions in economics and business, how to really make managers act as owners. And there have been a number of instruments developed, for example, stock options or actually really shares that are given to these managers. Whether they always work in the right way needs to be further examined, but certainly this is one way going forward.
Okay, Jörg Rocholl, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.